I stood outside my brother's reception in a tailored suit summoned, honored, disowned. They claimed my name wasn't on the list, but I forged the legacy. Who dares deny Olivia Harper? The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium glow of streetlights as my driver navigated the coastal highway toward the Waterfront Convention Center. I sat in the back of the black SUV, my tailored navy suit pressed to perfection. The weight of my CEO pen, a small silver emblem of Horizon Dynamics, resting heavy against my chest. At 42, I, Olivia Harper, had clawed my way to the top of a tech empire, a name synonymous with innovation and, to some, ruthless ambition. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, not just for my brother Ethan's ascension to chief operating officer, but for the Harper legacy. Our father, Richard Harper, a retired tech titan, had always said we were destined to redefine the industry. Yet as the SUV lurched violently, tires screeching against asphalt, my world tilted. Hold on. Miss Harper! My driver, Marcus, shouted, wrestling the wheel as the vehicle fishtailed toward the cliff's edge. The guardrail loomed, a flimsy barrier between us and the churning Puget Sound below. My heart slammed against my ribs, adrenaline spiking as I braced against the seat. The steering system had failed. No warning, no explanation. Marcus's knuckles whitened, his jaw set as he forced the SUV to a shuddering stop inches from disaster. Silence followed, broken only by the patter of rain and my ragged breathing. Sabotage, I whispered, the word tasting like bile. Someone had tampered with the car. This wasn't an accident. It was a message, but from whom? My mind raced to the gala, to Ethan, to the boardroom battles that had turned Horizon Dynamics into a war zone. I was no stranger to enemies. My eye-driven layoffs had slashed thousands of jobs, earning me both worship as a visionary and venom as a corporate executioner. But this was personal. Marcus checked the undercarriage, his flashlight cutting through the drizzle. Brake lines were cut, ma'am. Clean job. We need to get you to safety. No, I said, voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. We're going to the gala. Ethan's waiting. I wasn't about to let an assassination attempt, because that's what this was, derail my promise to stand by my brother. Not tonight. The convention center's glass facade glittered like a beacon as we arrived, late but intact. Photographers swarmed, their flashes blinding as I stepped onto the red carpet. My suit, now slightly creased from the ordeal, still commanded attention, its sharp lines a silent declaration of power. I adjusted my cufflinks, each engraved with the Horizon logo, and strode toward the entrance, ignoring the whispers that followed me like shadows. The media had been relentless lately, painting me as a cold-blooded disruptor, but I'd learned to wear their scorn like armor dot at the security desk. A young guard in an ill-fitting suit glanced up, his tablet glowing. Name, please? Olivia Harper, I said, my tone clipped but professional. CEO, Horizon Dynamics. He scrolled, his brow furrowing. I'm sorry, ma'am, you're not on the list. The words hit like a slap. Check again, I said, leaning forward, my voice low but edged with steel. I'm Ethan Harper's sister. This is his coup gala. The guard's colleague, a woman with a tight bun, joined him, her eyes darting nervously. We've checked, Miss Harper. No record of you in the family, VIP, or general sections. A crowd was gathering now, reporters sensing blood in the water. Camera shutters clicked like gunfire, capturing every second of my humiliation. I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, but I kept my expression neutral, a skill honed through years of boardroom ambush. There's been a mistake, I said, each word deliberate. Contact Ethan Harper or the event coordinator, now. The female guard stepped away, murmuring into her headset, while the crowd's whispers grew louder. Not invited? Harper's own sister? Typical Olivia thinks she's above the rules. I caught sight of Ethan through the glass. Doors, his tailored tuxedo immaculate, his laugh ringing out as he clinked champagne glasses with Victor Langley, our CFO and my most vocal critic. Ethan's eyes met mine for a fleeting moment, and I waited for recognition, for him to rush out and fix this. Instead, he turned away, his smile never faltering, as if I were a stranger. The realization hit harder than the sabotaged car. This was no error. Ethan had erased me from his night, his triumph, his world. My own brother, the boy I'd once taught to code in our Portland garage, had orchestrated this public shaming. The guard returned, her face apologetic but firm. "I'm sorry, Miss Harper. The coordinator confirms you're not authorized to enter." A murmur rippled through the onlookers, and a reporter shoved a microphone toward me. "Olivia, is this a sign of trouble at Horizon Dynamics? Are you losing control?" I ignored her, my gaze locked on Ethan, now surrounded by Langley's cronies, men who'd spent months undermining my vision for AI-driven efficiency. The boardroom war had spilled into the open, and Ethan had chosen his side. I turned to leave, my heels clicking against the pavement when a high-pitched whine cut through the air. Instinct kicked in. I dove behind a concrete planter just as a drone, sleek and black, detonated meters away. The explosion shattered windows, sending glass raining down. Screams erupted and security scrambled, but I stayed low, my pulse hammering. The drone was at random. It had targeted me. 2 attempts on my life in one night. Someone wanted me. Gone. And Ethan's betrayal was starting to feel like more than sibling rivalry in the chaos. I slipped into my backup car, a nondescript sedan Marcus had arranged. My phone buzzed my father, Richard. "Olivia, where are you?" "I just saw the news about the explosion." "I'm alive," I said, my voice hollow. "But Ethan, he didn't want me at the gala." My name wasn't on the list. A long pause. "I was afraid of this," Richard said, his tone heavy. "Ethan's been spending too much time with Victor Langley." "That man's poison, Olivia. He's been whispering in your brother's ear, turning him against you." "Against me?" I snapped, anger flaring. "I've given Ethan everything: mentorship, opportunities, my trust. Why would he do this?" "Langley's old guard," Richard said. "They hate your reforms, your layoffs, your push for II. Ethan's ambitious, and Langley's offering him a shortcut to the top of your throne." I ended the call, my mind racing. Horizon Dynamics was my creation, built from a startup into a tech titan through sleepless nights and bold risks. But my vision to automate processes and cut costs had sparked a civil war. On one side, my allies, led by CTO Sarah Bennett, championed innovation, believing AI was the future. On the other, Langley's traditionalists clung to human labor, accusing me of destroying livelihoods for profit. The layoffs had been brutal, no question 15,000. Jobs gone in 2 years, replaced by algorithms that boosted our stock but gutted communities. To some, I was a pioneer. To others, a monster. And now, Ethan had joined the latter camp, wielding his charm to undermine me. I leaned back, the city lights blurring past. My phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. Trust no one not. Even family. A chill ran through me. Who had sent it? Someone inside Horizon? A whistleblower? Or was it a trap? I forwarded it to my private investigator, Elena Voss, with a single instruction: dig into Ethan's recent contacts. Back at my penthouse, overlooking the Puget Sound's inky expanse, I poured a glass of bourbon and stared at the viral photos now flooding social media. Olivia Harper denied entry. CEOs fall from grace. The headline stung, but the betrayal cut deeper. I remembered Ethan at 16, his face lit by the glow of a monitor as I gifted him a custom laptop. For his first tech internship, "You're gonna change the world, Liv," he'd said, his grin wide and genuine. Where was that boy now? Sleep eluded me, so I worked. At 3 a.m., my office floor-to-ceiling glass with a view of the Space Needle was a fortress of solitude. I was reviewing financials when the security system blared. A shadow moved near my desk, a masked figure in black. I grabbed the letter opener, my only weapon, and ducked behind the couch. The intruder didn't see me, planting a small device under my desk above, sleek and high-tech. My heart pounded as they slipped out, leaving the door ajar. I retrieved the device, its red light blinking ominously, and called Elena. Someone's spying on me. Find out who. By morning, the media frenzy had escalated. Tabloids branded me a tyrant, while tech blogs hailed my unapologetic disruption. The split mirrored Horizon's internal divide, and I knew Ethan was fanning the flames. At a press conference that day, he stood before a sea of cameras, his smile polished. "Horizon Dynamics needs stability," he said, his words a veiled jab. "Reckless ambition can't overshadow our commitment to our people." The crowd applauded, but I saw Langley in the background, smirking. Ethan wasn't just betraying me. He was auditioning for my job. I fought back. That afternoon, I leaked internal emails to a trusted journalist, exposing Langley's mismanagement, $200 million in losses from outdated projects he had championed. The story broke like wildfire, polarizing the board. Sarah and my allies cheered. That Langley's faction retaliated. At an emergency board meeting, he stood, his voice dripping with venom. Olivia Harper's reckless leaks are a distraction from her real crimes. We have evidence of insider trading her trades before the layoffs boosted her personal fortune by millions. The accusation was a lie, but the room froze. Insider trading could mean prison. I rose, my tailored blazer a shield. "Victor, if you have evidence, present it to the SEC. Otherwise, this is slander." My voice was calm, but inside, I was reeling. The board's eyes darted between us, the tension electric. Langley backed down, but the damage was done. Doubt had been planted. That night, at a charity gala, the pressure mounted. I was mid-speech, rallying donors for a STEM education fund, when dizziness hit. My vision blurred, my words slurring. I gripped the podium, forcing myself to finish, but the room spun. Sarah rushed me off stage, her face grim. "Your drink was spiked," she whispered, handing me a water. I saw someone tamper with it. The paramedics confirmed a sedative non-lethal, but enough to humiliate me further. Another attack, this time in public. The media pounced. Harper's breakdown versus CEO targeted. The next day, Elena called with a bombshell. Ethan's been meeting with Apex Innovations, our biggest rival. They're planning a hostile takeover, and he's feeding them intel. My stomach dropped. Ethan wasn't just undermining me. He was selling out our company, our legacy. I flashed back to our childhood, when we'd built a robot together for a science fair, his laughter echoing as we won first place. How did we come to this? Investors were circling now, their emails flooding my inbox. "Resign, Olivia, or we'll tank the stock." Langley had orchestrated a vote of no confidence scheduled for next week. Sarah rallied our team, framing the fight as progress versus stagnation, but the odds were against us. Then, in my office, I found a locked USB drive labeled Project Eclipse. No note, no explanation. I hesitated, then plugged it in, my screen flashing with encrypted files blueprints. For a secret AI weapon system? Was this Horizon's or Apex's? And why was it on my desk? The final blow came on my private jet en route to a crisis meeting in San Francisco. At 30,000 feet, the system's failed lights out, engines stuttering. The pilot's voice crackled. "Brace for emergency landing." We touched down in the field, miraculously intact, but the black box confirmed sabotage. 3 attempts on my life in a week. Ethan, Langley, or someone else entirely. I stood in the wreckage, rain soaking my suit, and made a decision. I wasn't running. I'd crash Ethan's gala finale, expose his betrayal, and take back my company, no matter the cost. But as I dialed Sarah to plan our next move, that anonymous text haunted me. Trust no one, not even family. Who was pulling the strings? And what was Project Eclipse? The answers were out there, and I'd burn Seattle to the ground to find them. The Seattle skyline glittered like a jagged crown against the night sky, but inside the Waterfront Convention Center, the air was thick with tension. I stood in the shadows of the gala's grand hall, my tailored black blazer a stark contrast to the sequin gowns and tuxedos swirling around me. The weight of the last week, 3 attempts on my life, a sabotaged car, a rigged drone, a spiked drink pressed against my chest, but I shoved it down. Tonight wasn't about survival. It was about reclaiming what was mine. Ethan, my brother, had betrayed me, erasing me from his coup gala, aligning with Victor Langley's old guard faction to undermine my vision for Horizon Dynamics. But I wasn't here to beg for a seat at his table. I was here to burn it down. The gala was in its final hour, the crowd buzzing with champagne-fueled chatter. Ethan stood on the stage, his smile polished, his new coup pen gleaming under the spotlights. He was mid-toast, thanking the board for their unwavering support when I stepped into the light. Gasps rippled through the room, heads turning. As I strode down the center aisle, my heels clicking with deliberate precision. Photographers scrambled, their flashes blinding, but I kept my eyes locked on Ethan. His smile faltered, just for a second before he recovered, raising his glass higher as if I were a minor inconvenience. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. I didn't need a microphone. Years of boardroom battles had taught me how to command a room. I apologize for interrupting, but as CEO of Horizon Dynamics, I have something to say. The room froze. Ethan's hand tightened around his glass, and I caught Victor Langley's scowl from the front row, his silver hair glinting like a predator's warning. Sarah Bennett, my CTO and fiercest ally, stood near the back, her nod subtle but resolute. The board members, a mix of my progressive supporters and Langley's traditionalists, shifted uncomfortably. The media, sensing a scandal, leaned in, cameras rolling. "Tonight, we celebrate my brother, Ethan Harper, our new chief operating officer," I began, my tone measured but laced with steel. But celebrations shouldn't obscure truth. Horizon Dynamics stands at a crossroads: innovation versus stagnation, progress versus fear. I fought for the former, pushing AI to secure our future, even when it meant hard choices. But some prefer the past, clinging to outdated systems at the expense of our company's soul. I paused, letting the words sink in. Ethan's jaw clenched, and Langley whispered furiously to his allies. "One such individual," I continued, my gaze shifting to Ethan, "has been meeting with Apex Innovations, our rival, feeding them intel for a hostile takeover. My own brother, your new coup, has betrayed Horizon Dynamics for personal gain." The room erupted. Shouts of lies clashed with gasps of shock. Board members exchanged frantic glances while reporters fired. Questions like bullets. Ethan stepped forward, his face a mask of indignation. "Olivia, this is outrageous. You're desperate, slinging mud to save your failing leadership." "Am I?" said, pulling a USB drive from my pocket, the one labeled Project Eclipse. "Though I didn't mention it yet. I have evidence, Ethan. Emails, recordings, dates. Shall I share them with the board?" It was a bluff. My private investigator, Elena Voss, was still decoding the drive's encrypted files, but the threat landed. Ethan's eyes widened just enough to betray his fear. Langley surged to his feet, his voice booming. This is a disgrace. Olivia? Harper's reckless accusations prove she's unfit to lead. She's the one destroying Horizon with her layoffs and AI obsession. His faction roared in agreement, but Sarah's team clapped back, chanting, "Truth matters." The schism was palpable, the room split between hashtag Team Olivia, trending on social media among tech progressives, and hashtag Save Horizon rallying Langley's. Traditionalists who saw me as a corporate tyrant. Security moved toward me, but I held up a hand. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice calm but resonant. "But know this, Horizon Dynamics is my legacy, and I'll fight for it with or without your applause." I turned, walking out as the crowd's shouts echoed behind me. The cameras followed, capturing every step, and I knew tomorrow's headlines would be brutal. But I'd swayed the neutrals, 3 board members previously on the fence, sent me discreet texts promising support. The war was far from won, but I'd drawn. Blood dot outside. The Puget Sound's chill bit through my blazer as I slipped into my sedan. Marcus, my driver, glanced back. "You okay, Miss Harper?" "No," I admitted, my voice raw, "but I'm not done." My phone buzzed with a new alert. A hacker group, Black Circuit, have leaked my personal emails, private messages about my struggles with burnout, my doubts after the layoffs, even a vulnerable note to my therapist. The sender's signature pointed to Langley. He'd hired them to expose my weaknesses, to paint me as unstable. Social media exploded with hashtag Olivia Unraveled trending alongside cool memes. My allies countered with hashtag Stand with Harper, but the damage was done. My armor was cracking, and Langley knew it. I needed answers, and Ethan was the key. I texted him, boardroom, 30 minutes, no excuses. He didn't reply, but I knew he'd show. The Horizon Dynamics Tower was a fortress of glass and steel. Its top-floor boardroom a battlefield where I'd faced down countless foes. Tonight, it would host the most personal confrontation of my life. When I arrived, the room was dark, save for the city lights filtering through the windows. Ethan stood by the conference table, his tuxedo jacket slung over a chair, his face a mix of defiance and guilt. "You didn't have to do that, Liv," he said, his voice low. "You didn't have to humiliate me in front of everyone. You humiliated me first," I shot back, slamming the door. "You erased me from your gala, Ethan, your sister, your CEO, and now I find out you're selling us out to Apex? Explain yourself," he paced, running a hand through his hair. "You don't get it, do you? I've spent my life in your shadow. Olivia Harper, the genius, the trailblazer, Dad's favorite. Every boardroom, every article, it's always about you." Langley saw me live. He offered me a chance to step out, to be more than your sidekick, by betraying our company. I stepped closer, my voice trembling with anger. "You're not just hurting me, Ethan. You're destroying everything we built, everything Dad believed in." His eyes flashed, but his voice cracked. "Langley's not just fighting you. He's planning to sell Horizon to a foreign conglomerate, Gentech. Out of Shanghai, they'll get our tech, our jobs, our legacy." I didn't sign up for that, but by the time I realized I was in too deep, the revelation hit like a punch. Gentech was a shadowy player, rumored to have ties to state espionage. If Langley succeeded, Horizon Dynamics wouldn't just lose its edge. It could become a pawn in a geopolitical game. I stared at Ethan, my brother, my betrayer, and faced an impossible choice: expose him, shattering our family and risking Horizon's stability, or protect him, hoping he'd redeem himself. "Why didn't you come to me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "We could have fought this together." "Because you're untouchable," he said, bitterness seeping through. "You're Olivia Harper. You don't need anyone." The words stung, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a news alert. CISA launches probe into Olivia Harper for alleged market manipulation. Langley's doing, no doubt, he'd weaponized the insider trading lie, and now federal investigators were circling. My career, my freedom, hung in the balance. I looked at Ethan, searching for the boy who'd once built robots with me, but all I saw was a stranger. I left the boardroom, my mind racing. Elena Voss, my investigator, had sent an update. One board member, anonymous for now, was leaking Langley's plans to my team. Who was it? A disillusioned ally of Victor's? A mole with their own agenda? The mystery gnawed at me, but I had bigger problems. I needed to neutralize Langley before the SEC probe buried me the next morning. I met Sarah in a discreet coffee shop, its windows fogged from the Seattle drizzle. "We're setting a trap," I said, sliding her a burner phone. "I want Langley's takeover talks recorded. Elena's got a contact who can bug his office. If we catch him plotting with Gentek, he's finished." Sarah nodded, her eyes fierce. "This is bigger than us, Liv. If Gentek gets Horizon, it's not just jobs at stake, it's national security." The sting operation was risky, but we had no choice. 2 days later, at the annual shareholders meeting, I walked into the convention center with a recording in hand. The room was a powder keg investors, board members, and media packed shoulder to shoulder. Langley sat at the head table, smug, while Ethan avoided my gaze. I took the stage, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "Victor Langley has accused me of betrayal." I began, holding up the USB drive, not Project Eclipse, but the new recording. "But let's talk about real betrayal." I played the audio. Langley's voice, clear and damning, outlining the Gentek deal, promising to dismantle Harper's AI nonsense for a massive payout. The room exploded in chaos. Investors shouted. Langley's allies scrambled to deflect, but the evidence was undeniable. By the meeting's end, the board voted to oust Langley, his career in ashes. Ethan somehow slipped through, his name absent. From the recording, a calculated move, I suspected, to protect himself. Social media went wild. Hashtag Team Olivia soared among tech innovators, praising my courage, while hashtag Save Horizon rallied unions and traditionalists, decrying my vindictive power grab. The divide was stark, and I was its lightning rod. That night, a courier delivered. A handwritten letter from Ethan. "Liv," it read, "I regret my role in this, but I thought I was saving Horizon from your chaos." I was wrong. Can we talk? He defended his actions as necessary, but the words felt hollow. I tucked the letter away, unsure if I could ever trust him again. Family dinner at Dad's Portland estate was a battlefield of its own. Richard, his hair grayer than I remembered, set the table with military precision, his eyes heavy with disappointment. "You two are tearing each other apart," he said, carving a roast with unnecessary force. "This isn't what I raised you for." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Liv started at Dad. Her speech at the gala. "Stop," I snapped. "You erased me, Ethan. You chose Langley over me, over Horizon." "Own it." The air crackled, and Richard slammed his knife down. "Enough." He roared. "You're Harper's." "Act like it." The meal passed in strained silence, but I saw the cracks in Ethan's facade guilt, maybe, or fear. What was Project Eclipse, and why did it keep resurfacing in my mind? The USB drive in my safe held answers, but its encryption was military grade. And Elena warned it might be tied to Ethan's betrayal. A week later, Ethan made a move I didn't expect. He leaked documents to the press, exposing Apex Innovations' illegal data harvesting practices tied to the takeover plot. The story shifted the narrative, painting Ethan as a whistleblower, though I knew it was damage control. Still, it weakened Apex, buying Horizon time. I wondered if this was his redemption or just another chess move. The boardroom climax came unexpectedly. With Langley gone, the CISEC probe looming, and investors demanding stability, I made the hardest call of my life. I stepped down as CEO, endorsing Sarah to lead Horizon forward. Her vision aligned with mine: AI, innovation, progress, but her untainted reputation could heal the company's wounds. The board approved her unanimously, marginalizing Langley's remaining allies. I walked out of the tower, my title gone, but my resolve intact. At a tech conference in San Francisco, Ethan and I appeared together, our first public reconciliation. We shook hands for the cameras, our smiles practiced, but trust was a distant hope. The media ate it up, crediting me with Horizon's recovery, but I knew the cost. My legacy was divisive tech pioneers lauded my reforms, while unions vilified me for the layoffs. I didn't care. I'd stood my ground. Weeks later, at a women's leadership summit, I took the stage, my voice steady as I shared my story. Power isn't a title, I said, scanning the crowd. It's the courage to stand for what's right, even when it costs everything. Ethan was there, seated in the back, his presence a quiet gesture of support. Industry insiders noticed, whispering about the Harper siblings' uneasy truce. Langley made one last play, inviting me to a neutral venue, a sleek bar overlooking the Sound. Join my new venture, he said, his smile oily. You're too good to fade away. I leaned in, my voice ice. I don't partner with traitors, Victor. Horizon was my fight, and I won. I walked out, leaving him with his whiskey and his failure. Back home, I found a cryptic email. Project. Eclipse is live. Check the drive. My pulse raced as I unlocked my safe, the USB drive secret still out of reach. Whatever Eclipse was, weapon, deal, or something darker, it tied to Ethan, to Langley, to the war I'd barely survived. I called Elena. Crack it, I said, no matter what it takes. As I stared at the Sound, its waves restless under the moon, I knew this wasn't over. Betrayal had tested me, but integrity had defined me. I'd faced the fire and walked through it, not unscathed, but unbroken. And if Project Eclipse was the next battle, I'd be ready.